Hey guys, Shanti Phillips here. Welcome to a brand new weight loss journey video. Now this is a weight loss journey video which I kind of thought would never actually happen. I kind of thought I would be dreaming that I would actually be able to talk about this exact number because, when I, first got my, start during the weight loss, how it all started with me was, as I guys have mentioned in the past, I got cellulitis in my leg, and that was in June of 2014, and that was like the experience of after going into the hospital, the whole thing totally freaked me out, and I was having like visions in the hospital of, having a heart attack and ending up back in there, and, really thought that I was gonna, if I didn't change, I was gonna die. But that was one of the first times in years when I actually stepped on a scale and weighed, got weighed. But of course, at that time, I didn't want to see the weight because I was going through so many different problems at the time. Having all that stuff going on, I didn't know what was happening. And in the very beginning of it too, I thought like, am I dying? I didn't know what it was. And they were talking about like, X-raying my leg and saying like, oh, well, it didn't show up as flesh-eating virus. I mean, it was totally freaking me out. Like that was minutes before they said that, and then they say, "Oh, we're going to admit you to the hospital because it's getting worse, the cellulitis that was going on, and we have to check to make sure that you're not 500 pounds. Otherwise, we're going to have to put you on the really big bed." So I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'll get on the thing, but I don't want to see the number. I just did not want to see it. So I basically just closed my eyes and stepped on the scale. I said to the guy not to tell me. He didn't tell my dad. He just sort of wrote it down. And we were always kind of under the impression, though, that, the number was written down and the number was lost. Because I remember we called a couple months afterwards the hospital to try and ask about the number. They're like, oh, there's nothing. It was just written down on a piece of paper and thrown out. So I pretty much thought that, I didn't know what it was. All I knew was the limit was 500 pounds. I remember the guy he was saying you should be okay for the bed, and the way he was saying it, he had this weird thing to his voice. So I didn't know. I'm like, oh, is it right at 500? Right there? Is it not? I had no idea. But recently, about a week ago, I was able to actually get the actual number. I went into the hospital just to see if I could actually get the number. And being there, they actually, since I was actually there in person, the girl was nice enough to actually look it up and actually bring it up on the actual computer, and it was there. So all that time thinking that it wasn't there, that it was almost like I'd have to have a genie wish to actually get the actual number that I was when I started, because I actually started only weighing myself, on a scale, because first of all, I remember the big thing with me with the scale was I was kind of like, when am I going to be able to get on a scale? Because all the scales have limits, and a lot of them are like 350. Some of them are about 4. So I remember I bought a scale that was a 400 scale, and I had that for about a month. And I was maybe about a month or a couple weeks or so. And I remember I kept on getting on there, and it kept on having an error. That was a really, really rough time for me at that time. Right, and I remember I almost like broke the scale. That was a time when I was really upset in the very beginning, because you get a 400-pound scale and you get on it, and it continuously is error for a number of weeks. It's a very depressing situation for me. And I remember, I'm like, what do I weigh? Because I had no way to do it. The doctor that I was going to, he had one of those scales that only went to 350. So I was like, kind of like, am I ever going to know when I'm going to actually be able to get on a scale and have it work? So when I first started weighing myself, it was about 4 something. And, it was kind of reading over like 406. But, of course, it was flashing the error right afterwards. So I'm thinking, oh, could I be 410, 420? What is it? Well, the actual original starting weight was 453 pounds, which to me, when I heard that thing and I actually figured out how much it was, first of all, I was really happy to finally know. That at the same time, I'm like, my God, I actually was 453 pounds, which means that I have lost more than half my body weight, which from starting in June 2014 to now in July, near the end of July, I never would have thought that I was going to get down that much weight. So I have lost 233 pounds, something like that, which, I mean, I never in a million years would have thought, without doing any surgery, with basically, like I said to you guys, what I've done, now I'm kind of at more of a maintaining thing. I'm still continuing to do it, still going to the gym, doing the gym about 3 times a week, trying to, when I do it, burn off about, each time when I go, I like to try and get to like 1,700 calories just in the treadmill. Got to start now moving into the weights. That's something I've been needing to really do. But like, as you guys know, I did not do any surgery or anything like that. When I first started, it was all about doing the calories, counting the calories to a T. And and so the thing too with counting calories is sometimes when people say they're counting calories, they are like eating other things and thinking, oh, I can't count this, like, I can't worry about this, or I can eat, eat throughout the day. They're kind of taking little snacks of things and all that kind of stuff, and it all adds up. And the thing is, when you're as high as I was, and a lot of people out there too who have messaged me, that's when the thing that I've loved the most about what I've done is hearing from all of you guys out there who have decided to, from seeing my videos and seeing Brendan's videos, deciding to start trying to lose weight as well. And to me, that's one of the best things about this, is just knowing that a lot of you guys out there have decided to start to try to do it as well, because how much better I feel, from doing it. Yes, of course, I got gallstones from it, and that's basically, when I talk about gallstones, it's like something in your gallbladder with like these calcium things or something. So like if you eat anything too fatty, you get like a pain, and it can be a really bad pain. That's why I have to, when me and Brendan both talk about, oh, we're trying to watch the fat and stuff, if we have anything that's really high in fat, like a meal that has a whole lot of fat things, then you get that pain, and it can be a real annoyance. Yeah, and at some point, I will end up getting that removed, but I'm not a huge fan of the idea of having to go under the, go be put to sleep with all that. The whole thing kind of creeps me out a little bit. And at the same time, me and Brendan both have said, oh, when you have that, it kind of keeps you from eating any of that kind of stuff. But to be honest, I wouldn't have an interest in going and eating like a fried chicken or any of that kind of stuff again. And I didn't even really eat a lot of fried stuff to begin with before. It was always like Taco Bell and big orders and orders of all these things, and that was mainly what it is. And sometimes people go eating late and stuff like that. As long as you're counting the calories, it doesn't really matter. It's all about the calories. Like I said in the very beginning, what I was doing was, I was doing the pool every night. I was just doing laps in the pool, just swimming back and forth, just regular old laps. And then I was doing the 1,500 calories a day. And then I eventually moved into doing the gym. And at that point, I was doing the gym 4 times a week, and then doing the pool, for an hour. And then I was doing the pool at the gym for an hour. And then I eventually moved into doing the gym for 2 hours, and it was all doing the treadmill. And I would just go up and down on the treadmill. Never was running. I always would see people doing all that fast running and all that kind of stuff. And some people kind of get turned off from doing the treadmill because they think you've got to run on it. They see so many people doing the treadmill and running with all those crazy speeds. And I know some people say it's great to do that. And the thing is, I never did that, and I lost all the weight. I mean, I never did that fast. Because every time, if I tried to do that, it made me sort of feel, ugh. I just not a fan of really fast. I'm just a fan of, maybe a 3 speed at the tops, and then just like the really high incline. Moving up to like 16, I got up to like 22, and then, to cut it down a little bit, take a break, go back up again. That's pretty much what I was doing, was all of that kind of stuff. Like I said, now it's kind of like the maintaining stage, trying to find a balance of what I can eat, trying to eat a little bit more, closer to 2,000 calories, which I'm getting closer to quite a bit more, and then making sure you don't go over. And it's kind of a new balance thing. I want to lose, though, a little bit more weight. I would like to maybe get down like another 10 pounds. And the thing, everyone's got to take into account is, if I'm saying that I'm want to get to like 210, you also have to minus the weight of skin, the skin weight of your arms and, your stomach and all that kind of stuff you have to take into account. It's not that bad. You've seen the video of me with the shirt off. It's not amazing, but it's not, and I don't really want to have the surgery for that, at least not for quite a while, because think about that surgery here, under your stomach, your legs, and then all at the same time, the chance of infection, and there's a pretty high mortality rate that I was looking up for that surgery. So that's the thing I really want to talk about too, is I really don't want to have a surgery like that and then die. After losing all this weight and then drop dead. You know what I mean? That's why I'm a little bit nervous about doing that. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. And, like I said, it's really not that bad. But the thing is, too, if you take it too far at the weight, like if I was to try and lose like 30 more pounds or try and get to like the exact ideal weight, think about the skin, how much you'd actually be really underweight with that skin, and it'd be even worse. That's why you kind of have to stop at one point. Otherwise, it's going to be loose skin city. So I'm kind of like at the point now where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty happy where I am right here. Maybe like another 10 pounds or so, and trying to maintain and trying to continue to do the gym, and not like not want to do the gym as much, even though you feel like you lost the weight. I got to try and make sure I'm still doing that, and I want to continue to do that because I always feel better too when I did it. And the weight thing too wasn't all about, oh, I don't want to be like giant fat guy or anything like that too. It's a lot too for health. I used to have such a problem breathing. I went, and sleeping. It's amazing for me to think back to how much fear I had actually trying to sleep. And when it came to actually going somewhere, I never wanted to go and like go anywhere to sleep anywhere else, or go to any film set shoots out anywhere out other states or anything like that in the last like couple of years, because every time I would have to sleep in a hotel and things like that, I would like panic and wouldn't sleep because I was so paranoid, because I had sleep apnea from the huge amount of weight. Because like I said, think about this: me plus another me plus like 10-15 pounds, which is insane to think that. I just, to me, looking back on the old videos is just so strange to me, just to see that I was that big. Like, I can hardly remember now being that big. I mean, I feel like everything about me then was a problem. Like my hands, everything. I felt like I was swollen up or something. It was a very strange experience to look back on that and try and think about how I was back then. And it's just weird too, even looking at when I thought I was like a lot more thinner, like I like actually wasn't seem as big. Looking back at like stuff when I was in like December, when I thought, oh, I seem like a lot bigger, smaller, still was big. It's just weird, like to look at how much of a difference it is, and how like I now actually like don't have all that, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just all this stuff. It's different, and I just want to encourage everyone out there too, like. So if you have any questions for me too about things and about how I've been doing, anything like that, any specific questions, write them down below, and I'll make sure to get back to you guys about it. But I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing. I know Brennan is as well. Let me know too, guys, if you guys have had to have that gallbladder surgery and how it was for you, if it was like really a scary thing and all that kind of stuff, and if it seemed like it wasn't something that's going to take all day and you can get out of there quickly, because I hate hospitals too. I don't like having to go to them. It creeps me out. It always has, and it kind of, going back and stuff, makes you feel like, oh, like, because like that was the turning point for me, going to a hospital and going back. Because like when I went back to about the gallstones at one point, that's when you know what I mean, like I just felt real sick about the whole thing, and very strange just to have to be back in there again. But I eventually will deal with that. Just not something I want to rush to. That's why I'm just really careful. And you always hear me talking about watching the fats, and kind of see me eating a lot of the same things a lot, is because I know I don't have a problem with this stuff. And I went months in the last while without having one. And then all of a sudden I ate one random thing, and they must have put too much oil on it, or they put too much something on these potato things, and I don't know what they did to them. But then I had like an attack, and that was a couple weeks ago. And I was just like, man, I was so careful, and then that happened. But it's, you know, I guess it's just what happens. And I kind of feel like when you lose a lot of weight, it's kind of not a question of if you're going to get it, it's more of when. And it's scary to say that to you guys, but it seems like, talking to a lot of people who have lost a lot of weight, it seems like it happens. It's like something about it was screwed up from before, and then the change of diet really makes the gallbladder mad. But it's weird. It doesn't sound like you even really need it. It sounds like it's a kind of a pointless thing, and after you take it out, then you can eat anything again. But like I said, you don't really want to eat that stuff to begin with, and you want to kind of have this thing saying, don't eat it no matter what. Don't even bother trying it. Just eat the fat-free yogurt if you want it. But anyway, though, guys, I was glad to be able to tell you guys, though, the actual weight, because people have wondered that, and people have asked me for so long, how much weight have you exactly lost? And I hated kind of saying, oh, like 200 something, like, and not really knowing for certain that it was a little bit over 200, or, because like I said, I never knew until I started weighing myself when it was getting at, the scale was 400, and accepting the weight, so I never had an actual number. Now I do. Like I said, the original starting number was 453 pounds, and and taking into account too, that was weighed when I already was sick for a few days, so I probably was a couple pounds heavier, right before that, so it's probably closer to 460, because I was not eating much, because I was having all kinds of problems at that time. you know, and was not eating much at all the day or two before and stuff. So I'm sure it was even a little bit more, because I remember right when I got out of the hospital too, I had lost, like, even noticed a little bit of weight loss for some reason just from that period of time. But anyway though, guys, that's all for this weight loss video. It wasn't like a big video about like going anywhere or anything like that. This was more just talking to you guys about my original starting weight, some of the stuff that I've done. And anyway though, guys, thanks again for watching, for subscribing, and let me know any other kind of ideas too you would like to see me do for weight loss videos, any topics you'd like me to talk about, any specific things like that, subjects you'd like me to get into for these. Anyway though, guys, thanks again for watching, subscribing, and I'll see you guys later.